we used to ask every single person how they liked their eggs. I remember looking at Paul Masvidal from Cynic in the eyes and being like, how do you like your eggs? And they would always give like legitimately thoughtful answers. Author and Punisher, Tristan Schoen, he gave me like this detailed recipe of how he makes eggs.
Welcome to the 123rd episode of the Casa Ends Creation. I'm your host, Chris Deering. This is the show where I interview bands and public figures in the mathcore adjacent communities. And today we have, my guest today is part of one of the bigger blogs in the scene with a stated goal of documenting the golden age of underground music. Welcome in Jimmy Rowe and Eden Kupermintz of Heavy Blog is Heavy. How's it going, guys?
Going good. Thanks for having us, Chris.
Did I say your name correctly, your last name?
You didn't, but that's the Anglo-Saxon version, so you're good.
I've been saying it wrong this whole time as well.
No, but Eden is like totally fine because you literally have the word in English, right? Because of the Bible. So it's pronounced a bit differently in Hebrew, but it's all good.
How do you pronounce it?
Eden.
Okay, so I got your last name right then.
Yes, Kupermintz is German, so it's easier.
So you threw me through a loop. I thought that I was going to have to relearn Kupermintz in a weird way.
I thought it was the last name. Okay.
Kupermintz is easy.
Outrun the Sunlight's in here. We Stan, Eden, and Jimmy. Got some other chatters in here that are big fans of you guys, apparently. I forgot to mention, if y'all wanted to see comments in real time, you can pull up twitch.tv/thecassetenscreation, and you can see people talk. But anyway, tell us who you are and what exactly you do for Heavy Blog.
Jimmy, go.
Okay, well, my name is Jimmy. I am currently an editor and contributor for Heavy Blog, and I started it in 2009. I don't know if you wanted me to go ahead and go on into all that right now.
Well, let's introduce Eden. Eden. I'm sorry. Let's introduce Eden first.
Yeah.
So I am Heavy Blog's current editor-in-chief, which means that I run the show basically, alongside the rest of our editors, which Jimmy is one of them today. We have a bunch of others as well. That's pretty much it.
Alrighty. So how did it all start?
Okay, so taking it back to me being a teenager, we started it in 2009 as like a WordPress thing. It was me and a friend of mine, Mitch West. I just kind of wanted a place to kind of publicly go through the exploration process that we all go through as in later years of high school and getting into college, of like finding this whole realm of music. It started out in a nebulous way, kind of 2006-ish. I was really getting into like metalcore and like my first like big boy metal bands, like In Flames at the time, right?
Big boy metal.
Yeah. I picked up Linkin Park and like Korn and Slipknot, but then that led me to metalcore and melodic death metal. And I kind of, I wasn't content with just in 2006, that was when Metal Sucks started. And I read that literally every day. I
was really into that as well.
I won 2 different contests on Metal Sucks. Like I won an Agoraphobic Nosebleed CD and a cookbook that was like metal themed. And I was, doing that regularly. And then at the same time, I was like on MySpace talking about new bands. Like Trivium is the new Metallica. It's just stuff that you would say in 2006, right? So I, putting it on like the MySpace blog portion, it wasn't just enough. And I was doing my practicing with writing and kind of like finding that whole voice on there. And then we moved it to WordPress in about 2009. After that, it's a little fuzzy for me because I graduated college in 2013. And I started my master's degree in about 2016. And then I got married. I had kids at that time. And around that time, I fell away from the blog. And that's when Eden kind of came in and took it over.
So in the early days, were you just doing like reviews and stuff, or
everything? It was, I kind of aped Metal Sucks a lot. Like it was a lot of news, reviews, opinions. And I'm glad it took us years to, the news, posting news really helped. But I'm glad we fell away from doing that because, Vince from Metal Sucks told us straight up a couple years ago that there was really no way, and he gave this advice in like a loving kind of way. He was always very supportive of us. He put us on the blog roll at Metal Sucks very early. That, there's really no reason for us to do news.
Right.
You can't compete. You can't compete with the PRP and things like that. It's really no purpose in it. So with Eden guiding like the editorial voice, we focus more on deep dives, kind of narrative things a lot of the time, and stepped away from like shoehorning press releases and tour dates and all that kind of stuff into what we do. And so now it's mostly just like music exploration and discovery.
More like original content and stuff instead of like copy pasting.
Yeah, it's been about that since about 2016, I want to say.
That's the thing I really like about you guys. It feels like there's more heart put into it than what other blogs end up doing.
Yeah, I think when I joined, I mean, it was completely random, right? I literally just messaged the blog on Facebook with this Israeli band, and I included like two paragraphs. Mechanic God, by the way, they don't exist anymore, but they make some sick death metal. So check those guys out. And then Jimmy, it was Damien, right? One of our like more active contributors who kind of wrote back, and then offered me up as a candidate to become a writer. And then when I joined, I mean, unfortunately, it ended up okay, but my life was in shambles. I had just been dumped by my partner. We'd been together for like 11 years, and I kind of fell into depression, basically. So I would also work like night shifts at the sales job that I had, and I would just constantly be posting, right? And with Jimmy then taking a step back because of the kids, and the other editor had his own like life stuff that prevented him from being full-time, it kind of like for 6 months there, I was heavy blog, right? Like I posted 5-6 times a day. Jeez. And that's like 4 or 5 news articles a day, and then a review.
So like news articles then. So you were, at this time we were doing news still.
Yeah. Like the first article I ever wrote for Heavy Blog is about the drums for the Monument album being tracked. Right? Like,
how do you remember that, dude? Jesus.
It's the first post. I just go to like the earliest post and it's on there.
Okay.
But I also remember it because it was really sick for me, right? I mean, I'm from Israel, right? So I don't get to meet these people. I am not as, today I am, but I wasn't as connected to them. And then the first time, damn, I don't remember who it was. I think maybe number 12 looks like you or someone like that. The first time they shared one of my posts, I was at a bar when I got the notification. I fucking lost it. I was like, these guys, some of my favorite musicians on the planet, and they're sharing stuff that I wrote. So that's how I got addicted really early. And then to like go back to the timeline, at some point, Nick joined, Nick Cusworth, shout out to Nick, who kind of joined me as a co-editor, and he became like my co-conspirator and helped me run everything. And we basically did the same model with news and reviews and all that stuff and posting every day until late 2015. And to be honest with you, we changed because we burnt out. It's impossible. It's really, really hard. It's boring, right? Like this and that band said this and this thing, here's a tour. And we figured out that the stuff that we care about the most are the reviews and the deep dives, like the extra content that we write and analysis and all that stuff. So at one point I just messaged Nick and I was like, why don't we just stop? Like, why don't we just stop posting every day, stop doing news, stop. I'm seeing Austin emojis in the chat. Hey, Austin, he's from Outrun the Sunlight, a really cool Chicago post-rock band. He's been with us like since 2014 when we covered Terrapin. Austin's been a really good friend of ours.
Oh, I met Austin. Hi.
Oh, yeah,
I met him a couple of times. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I met Austin for the first time here at Arctangent. I'm wearing the sweatshirts, like a festival in England. We ran into each other there. I had no idea he was attending, by the way. I just saw him at like the Ocean, I think, the pit for the Ocean. Like, hey, it's Austin. What's going on? So that's kind of like how it came to be, and we stopped doing news and all that stuff. I mean, there's many more iterations. We call it now Heavy Blog 3.0, I think is what we're at now. But we've done a few transformations to our model and how we post.
Wasn't the big redesign in like 2015 when y'all stopped using ads and stuff?
So it's a bit more complicated than that, right? Like we used to be on AdSense, which is Google's ad network. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how many people listening or know Google AdSense sucks. right? It's basically a numbers game, and that's where you get clickbait, right? Not to get too technical, but the conversion rates and the exposure rates are so low that if you're not doing 100,000 plus views every day, you're not really going to see a lot of money from it.
Right.
And then actually Vince from Metal Sucks approached us. We approached him. It was kind of like a mutual thing to go on Blast Beat Network, which is kind of Metal Sucks answer to AdSense, right? The reason that AdSense sucks is that it shows you irrelevant ads, right? Like you're a metalhead going on a metal website and it shows you ads for, I don't know, home decorations or like baby stuff. And why would you click on that? It's not relevant to you. Blast Beat is invite only, and it's only metal related websites, and it's going to push metal related ads, right? So you're going to see your tickets and promos and merch and stuff like that and albums. So that was a bit better for us. We made more money, and also we felt a bit better about it, right? It's not Google, it's not this giant, I mean, in the back end, it's Google, right? But still, we're working with someone that we appreciate and delivering, a relevant content.
Yeah.
Somewhat relevant, right? And we don't run the risk of advertising like really bad stuff, like gambling, stuff like that Google uses AdSense for, right? But that wasn't enough. We didn't want to be dependent on that money. We didn't want to be dependent on ads. I mean, another guy who helps run the blog, Noyan, shout out to him, really, really smart guy, very savvy. He was the first champion of this. He was like, look, ads are a bad model for the internet. Ads have made the internet like demonstrably worse in every single way. It's made it cheap. It's made it instant. It's made it shallow. So if you all agree with me, and I know that you do, then why are we still using ads? It took us a while to figure out an alternative model, and now we're on Patreon. Don't get me wrong, Patreon are also super problematic, right? They're a huge corporation now, VC funded, all the money on the planet, like Silicon Valley. Not my favorite stuff around, but it's better because it allows you to create like a direct relationship with your readers.
Right.
And you're not serving them ads. They're paying you for the content, not for their attention. Some corporation can make money off of their time.
It seems like you'd make like a lot less money though. And I see that y'all don't even really push the Patreon stuff for a lot.
Right. It's actually quite comparable. What we make now because of our community is so wonderful. I was skeptical. Like I didn't know if we would be able to keep the blog running at just paying out of pocket because we weren't making money. Like we never made like I might have been able to like buy concert tickets and like to pay for transportation to shows because I live in Eastern Kentucky. I live 4 hours away from everywhere that's worth going to. So to get me places like the Dillinger show, like Heavy Blog was able to pay for me to go to the final 3 Dillinger shows. But as far as like to take home like personal money, we never made money and it wasn't really like a lot of money. But right now we're very fortunate to have, between 50 and 60 patrons right now who support us 100%. I think it not only pays for us, but to stay online and pay for, server costs and all that good stuff. But it also allows us to put money into, merch and this other stuff that we've got working on this next coming year.
Okay, yeah. Nice. So and nobody's like, there's nobody whose job it is to just post on Heavy Blog then?
No.
Okay. The way I thought that y'all were like, having like full-time writers and stuff like that. I guess not though.
No. So it's 100% volunteer based. No one makes money off of it, including myself. In fact, I think I'm down like a few $1,000 over the last 7 years or so, which is fine. Like this is my favorite thing that I do in life. So it's all good. It's all volunteer work, which has dictated our model of posting, right? Like we used to do this crazy stuff, like post 4 posts a day and then a review every single day on a volunteer basis, right? And that was all as slaves to the algorithm, right? That's what you need to post to keep your Facebook engagement up, to keep your views up, all that stuff. But then at some point we were like, it's either we break down, like everybody goes crazy because it's too much work and too much hassle, or we post less and we figure out like what's the added value that we can generate by posting less, which is of course the avenue that we chose because we're sitting here and Heavy Blog exists, right? Otherwise, it just wouldn't have survived. So it's all volunteer work. The only thing we get out of it, which is big, don't get me wrong, it's just not monetary. Obviously, access to music. but also access to musicians. Every single person who writes for the blog is a huge nerd, like a huge geek, that whenever an artist just shares what they say or comments on their post, I don't speak to them often, like online, right? Obviously not physically because I live on the other side of the ocean, but just from text, you can hear the smiles, right? Whenever that happens. And that's also true for me. Like when I wake up and I open my phone, what was it lately? Damn, I don't remember who it was. Like one of my favorite bands, Ulver, right? Ulver shared my review of their previous album. I was walking on fucking sunshine the rest of the week.
Between the Bear and Me put me on a press release for their DVD. I called it a masterclass of progressive metal. I said something to the fact, and it was in their press release. It's my favorite band of all time. I was so beyond ecstatic for that.
That's awesome that y'all are doing this just for like the community involvement or whatever. Like, that's really awesome.
Yeah, that volunteer stuff was great when I was 19, but I can't. I'm 31 now. I've got kids. I've got a full-time job. I can't do that, and I can't ask anybody else to sit there all day and generate news. So I'm glad we ended up where we are.
So what do y'all like focus on now then? Just the deep dives and reviews, or I mean, there's other content, right?
Yeah. So now that we're doing Heavy Blog 3.0, we actually moved to this column format. So each writer either runs or participates in a column. They can do multiple ones as well, and each column focuses on a genre. So Death's Door is about death metal, and Post Rock Post is about post rock, and we have Cult column for black metal and so on.
Right to the core for metalcore and mathcore stuff.
One of our most favorite, like our most successful columns. So it's
really
to put them up. Yeah, very, very popular. I mean, in general, this is another topic, right? But there's like heavy blog core, with like the bands that people who read heavy blog usually listen to, and metalcore and hardcore is one of them. Anyway, those columns can also, sometimes they just cover albums. Sometimes there are think pieces inside the columns, in their intros, throwbacks, right?
We've done interviews inside those columns.
Yeah, interviews. And then there's stuff around it that we do. Deep dives take a lot of effort. And again, we're not paid for it, right? So for example, my deep dives, I'm known for being very verbose, right? And my posts tend to run long. Although I'm not the most verbose on the blog, that award goes to David Ziedler, great guy, amazing writer, but very, very verbose. So sometimes you're going to run a 15,000 page post. And at that point, calling it a post is ridiculous. Like it's an essay. It's an article, right?
Yeah. Have you ever really gotten to that point of 15,000 pages?
Oh, I've surpassed it.
Words, probably, yeah.
Okay, words. That makes more sense. I was going to say pages is insane.
You said
pages. Oh, shit. No. Sorry, maybe I should stop drinking whiskey. No. Words. Sorry.
Our boy here is into Tolkien, but I don't think we're reaching that point.
Yeah. No, not yet. Although Nick is working on something that's going to be like, I'm not even joking, like 36 pages long.
Jeez.
He has it in a like a Microsoft, Google Cloud document, and it's like 36 pages long. But yeah, I've written like deep dives into post rock and black metal and consumerism and misogyny and synthwave and a bunch of other stuff, and that gets above the 10K. And I did research for that, like proper research. I read multiple books and synthesized the information, but we don't get paid for that. So that's another piece of content that we do. And then we have the small stuff, which is like, hey, this band is awesome.
I like your dives into like culture and stuff like that. I've read a couple of the articles about things like that, like the misogyny one. I remember reading that stuff.
Yeah, really good.
That kind of stuff is really interesting. It's more than just hey, this band's awesome or whatever. You know what I mean?
Fun fact. That is the only article that I've gotten hate mail over.
You got hate mail for that?
I got an email.
You can imagine.
Yeah, I mean, so you'd expect it would be a lot more, but actually the people who read Heavy Blog are like really nice. And even if they disagree with us, they usually just tell us in a nice way instead of sending a hate email. But yeah, this guy messaged me saying that he did something really clever. The subject line was really positive, so that I would open it. I would have opened it anyway, but I clicked on it, and it was like, blah, blah, you're trying to cancel these bands, you and your woke politics, blah, blah, blah. Don't tell me what to listen to. And then I posted a screenshot to Facebook and Twitter making fun of him, and it had his email. And I was like, fuck you. I'm not blurring your details. Like, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. So he emailed me back and said, by the way, thank you for respecting my privacy online, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, dude, you literally emailed telling me to fuck off. Do you think I care about your privacy? Like, if I had your details, I would dox you, right? I don't give a shit. That was the only hate mail I have ever gotten for Heavy Blog. We had some comments, but Facebook comments, whatever. You can say whatever you want.
So how do you get the awareness for the blog out? Like, do you just use the social media pages and stuff, or how does that work?
We don't. I mean, we just post like. So
we just relying on bands sharing articles and stuff then, or?
We honestly, like, when we switch to the model that we're doing now, where we post once a month, all the columns and stuff like that, I'm going to be very transparent. Like, we lost 40% of our readers.
Dang.
Right? As far as the view count on the WordPress plugin, right? Mm-hmm. I see Dan talking about the 12-foot ninja incident. We might discuss that.
No. I forgot about that.
Later. We'll come back to it, I promise. It's a really good story. Anyway, because again, the algorithm, the bots, all that stuff, they like it when you post a lot. So when we stopped, we really took a deep dive as far as like a nosedive as far as hits. But what we did is just change our perspective on our parameters for success. It's not about a number in a WordPress plugin that goes up, right? Like the meme line goes up. It says 97, 650 viewers. Who cares? Like, who are those people? Now we have our Patreons. We have the comments. We have Discord. We have the Facebook group, and those numbers are way more interesting because they're people that I know their name,
right?
And I can see what my content does for them. Like, they comment. So I used to say that every time someone comments on anything that the blog does and says, I just found my favorite album or my favorite band, that's 500,000 views. Like, if you told me to pay 500,000 views for one comment saying, this is my favorite band, and I found it through Heavy Blog, I would pay you in an instant, right? So our new model allows us to do that much, much, much more often because we dive so much deeper, because people can follow the different columns and get to know the writers and develop relationships with them, right? So it's all about just a mind shift. Now, we're privileged, right? This costs very little money. We don't need the hits to keep it going. It's not a business. No one is employed, right? Like, remember when Metal Hammer got into financial troubles and 15 people were let go around Christmas?
Oh, geez. I never saw
that was 2 or 3 years ago. That's awful. That's like some of these publications, the actual businesses with people's livelihood dependent on them. We have the privilege of not being that. So we can take these risks and say, yeah, we don't care about the numbers. We don't care about the hits. We care about, engagement, but not in the internet sense, right? Like actual human engagement.
Right. You're not just like spamming a bunch of stuff like these other blogs are with like the news and stuff. You're taking time to make something that's more, that these people would really appreciate,
Yeah, we're not going to have to cover Robert Fripp and his wife doing covers every day. Like, we don't have to do that.
Yeah, or like Steven Wilson says another thing about modern production. We don't have to post that.
What does Corey Taylor think?
Yeah, Corey Taylor, right? That's the guy that they always go, well, what does he have to say about the situation? Who cares? Yo, I see that Trent is in the chat. Trent is like one of our most veteran writers. Shout out to him, Trent Boss. By the way, he's like a music recommendation machine. So if anybody's looking for the new favorite band, Trent's your guy.
He inspires me every day. He's one of the reasons why I got into the current thing that I do now, which you can read on our Patreon. It's over the years I kind of lost something as far as like my relationship with music goes. He every week he posts these grids and he's like, he listened to like 40 albums this week. I'm like, I don't know how any person has this much time, focus. It baffles me. But this year I made a kind of almost like a New Year's resolution to listen to something new every single day that I didn't hear before. From beginning to end. Like I recently listened to Pierced from Within by Suffocation, which is not an album I heard in entirely. I've heard songs from it. I've heard of the band, obviously, but I haven't sat down and listened to the album intently. And it's obviously an incredible record. And Trent is one of the people directly responsible for me to like make time every single day to listen to stuff that I had not heard previously.
No, that's a good practice too. I've seen people post grids like that too, and just like I have no idea how they're listening to stuff as they do. So, what's the 12-foot ninja story?
Oh my god, you gotta let me have this one, Jim. I was like in this. Okay, so to be clear, like no beef. It's all forgiven, forgotten, whatever. I'm not a big.
And
fan
let's
of the
dig
band,
it back up.
Yeah, and then now let's just pour salt back on the wound. So in 2013 or 12, before I joined the blog, we had a writer, Jeff, from Australia. By the way, one of the best people who ever wrote for the blog. He's been, he's like a full-time big shot lawyer and he has family. So
I miss him. I haven't spoken to him in forever.
I have to message him. He's a great guy. Anyway, he reviewed a 12-foot ninja album, the one with the shuriken on the album cover.
It was that big first one. It had "I'm coming for you," like that song.
I've never listened to the band actually.
They're good. They're pretty good. Anyway, he gave it like
3 out of 5.
It
was a 3 out of
3 out of 5.
Yeah, it was a positive review. Like it was 3 out of 5.
Positive review. 3 out of 5. This is when we did review scores. We don't do that anymore, but we used to. And the band went crazy about it. Like they sent their fans into the comments to spam the review with negative shit. And it also, in this part I'm not going to say here because it's like could be legally problematic, but it bubbled over into real life. Like phone calls were made, people talked, stuff happened, right? Like berating him. Anyway, it was again a positive review. Okay, whatever. It happens, honestly. It happens. We've had several bands do that. Whatever. We left it in the past. But then 12-Foot Ninja crowdsourced a video. And this was before crowdsourcing was really big. This is like the tail end of 2013, the start of 2014. And they raised something ridiculous, like $70,000 for a music video. What the hell are you going to do with that amount of money? And it created this big like buzz and expectation and everything. And it took years for them to actually release the video. But then they did. And the video was this like, stereotypically like a troll on the internet. So this guy is overweight and he has a neck beard and pimples and he's like drinking, soda from this big McDonald's can or whatever. And he pirates the new 12-Foot Ninja album. And then he goes online and writes, "This album sucks, XD, exclamation mark. You all are slur, right? Sexual orientation slur, right? You all suck, post." And then the band gets it. This is in the video. I'm not lying. This is on YouTube. You can go watch it, right? The band then does like a video game martial arts montage where they train up to like be buff and they do like Mr. Miyagi, wax on, wax off, and it gets all swole. And they do that so they can fly to the States, kill the guy with a chainsaw, hack him into pieces, and then make him into hamburgers and feed him to Misha Mansour from Periphery. Misha is in the video.
What the fuck?
Eating like this guy's burgers. Now,
why would Misha be a part of that? That's so stupid. Oh my god!
It's like a funny joke, right? And they did the mayo, the ketchup mustard thing that Periphery used to have. It was like a big Periphery meme back in 2014. God, that shit seems so stupid now. Anyway, like it was allegedly not about us, right? But we are literally the only blog that gave them anything less than 4.5 out of 5 or 5 out of 5. Like everybody was going ape shit for this album. And we were the only ones who were like, this is good, but we'd like to see some stuff change. We didn't even trash it. And they flipped. And then that was one of the first posts that I wrote for the blog was me covering the video and saying, guys, isn't this like Isn't this like a bit much?
It's cringy as hell, dude. Holy crap.
It was awful.
Oh my
And the
God.
reason that I wrote the post is that no one knew who I was. No one knew who I was back then. Like, I wasn't on any of the forums. I wasn't in any of the Facebook groups. No one knew who I was. So it was like a move to, like, lower the tension and the flames, because we didn't want it to escalate out of existence. It was hilarious.
That's crazy.
Hilarious.
It's such a bad idea for a music video too. Like saying, "Oh, if you
be
don't
fair-
like our album, we're gonna fly to your house and kill you." Like,
Kill
what
you.
the fuck?
Yeah.
It's like,
To be fair,
that's just the same joke as the end of this Jay and Silent Bob movie. Like it's the same thing.
it's totally the same thing. And like, to be fair to them, like, the video technically is great. Like, they actually spend the money. It's well filmed and like it's funny. Like, if it was about anything else, it would be hilarious. They do a good job. They have charisma. And like, bringing in Misha is super cool. I think it was really funny. Trent is saying that he thinks they were touring with them at the time, so maybe that's the tie-in. The video itself was great. Just the subject matter was, again, if we had given it
So
like a
awful.
1 out of 5 and said this album fucking sucks, never buy an album from this band, okay, I can get why you'd be upset. But we literally just said, cool album. That's
yeah,
it.
but like even then, like if they release that video nowadays, like I'm pretty sure they get canceled for that. That's like really fucked up if you think about what they're saying in that.
Yeah. It was fucked up.
I saw the Danny Moriarty in chat saying the old shit posts were funny, to be honest. The Attack review, Noyan's legendary Gothic King Cobra review, etc. So you guys have gotten into some hot water with a couple other bands then.
I mean, when you look at what the again, I will admit the early on we did ape Metal Sucks a little bit, because they were, and still are, like, that's, the big one. And when you're 18, 19, you think it's funny to just listen to a band's music and just shit on it. Like, but nowadays I'm like, well, that's somebody's heart and soul. Maybe be a little nicer. I can admit to, when being just wanting to stir shit back in the day, it's quite funny. I know that we read some we posted some satire on, like, the Harp Machine about, it was like I wrote it like an Onion article about how it ended up being like just an elaborate hoax from the company that did from Guitar Pro software, and people thought it was real, and apparently the guy from the band got a hold of it. He was not happy, but he didn't dox me or anything for it, so
Yeah.
he didn't show up at my employer or nothing.
I would hope not. Has that happened?
No.
Okay.
Allegedly has not happened.
No, that definitely never happened.
Y'all used to do video content. We'll play this in the background while we're talking about it. But I think this was heavy blog at NAMM in 2016. So like, why'd y'all stop doing video content? It seems like that's like where this should be heading, is to have a lot more video content.
Yeah, so I think first of all, beyond like the actual what happened, as far as like this is where it should be heading, this is another like case of me and Noyan and other people on the blog having allergy for anything that social media tells you. Like, we won't get into it here, right? But Facebook lied to everyone, right, about video. They admitted this like in court. It's all legally like jotted
Wait,
down.
what do you mean lied about what?
They lied about the engagement that they got from video plays on their platform in the beginning of the decade all the way to 2015. Right, like they put their foot on the scale in order to convince.
Okay,
the
they
internet
lied
that
about how
video
many
is-
like views it got or something. Okay,
like they would count 3-second plays as a full play and all that shit, and then it's still haunting us, this idea that like video is the next big thing and everybody should be doing video and so on. And don't get me wrong, video is great, right? But it's not this imperative. Right? You don't have to do video. And this brings me to the technicalities of it. Video is a lot of work. Like the reason that we could do this, the only reason, is that Nick is a professional video editor, like in his day job.
that's the guy that's here interviewing people, right?
Oh, no. Nick is the guy who runs the blog. With like he came in 2014, was like
Okay.
my partner in crime, right? He's one of the third senior editor on the blog. So he's a full-time like professional video editor, and he spent hours on this video that you're seeing now and all the other videos that we do, just editing them. And then the other video content on our channel was actually him physically going with like a video guy with a big like set and filming shows at St. Vitus in Brooklyn, Williamsburg, which is like one of the best metal venues on the planet, basically. And he was living in New York at the time, and he had an in with the guy who runs the venue, and he was able to spend, Chris, I can't tell you how many hours he spent on this, like dozens and dozens and I mean, you stream, you know how much video takes.
Yeah,
up.
I remember seeing like I thought it was just photos, but I guess he had videos and stuff too of like bands playing live. Like that would be over your weekend content. It was all that stuff, right?
And those videos are still some of the best stuff we put out there. There's like So Hideous before they blew up, right? Playing St. Vitus, Arkspire, Fallujah, Author and Punisher. Also, all these sick bands like playing this really cool videos, and it looks amazing, and it's really successful as well. Like the comments and the view numbers, they keep going up, even though we haven't used the YouTube channel for ages. But like, it's super expensive, it's super time consuming, it's logistically very, very hard. We had dreams. I had a lot of dreams about doing more stuff like this. We had a photographer in Australia, William, a really good guy, really talented photographer, and he did a tour diary with photos that he took when he went to be a roadie with After the Burial. Right, he was a roadie with them. Very bittersweet now, obviously, because of what happened with the band members.
Right.
And I really wanted to do more stuff like that. Like I wanted to send him on the blog's dime to Australia to document the scene there and take photos. But the second that we started touching it and understanding how much it would actually cost, and how much of a nightmare it would be to set up, we had to back away. It was like, it's tough.
Well, I
tough
mean,
content to
you
make.
start small or whatever, right? Like you don't fly someone to Australia. Like you just look around the local scene to start with and stuff like that.
Yeah, so he was local there, right? Like he was local to
Oh, he
the
was in
scene.
Australia. Okay.
Yeah, he was in Australia.
Gotcha.
We also had really talented guy, Mark Valentino. He's in a bunch of really sick bands. Blame God, for example. He's like a mini celebrity in like the New York hardcore scene. He was a photographer for us. Super talented guy. And also I wanted to send him to like do, New England hardcore. I'd like really dive into that scene and take photos and stuff like that. But again, just time, money, logistics, all that stuff.
It doesn't seem like it'd be that expensive. I guess it's like hiring like a crew to go around with him or something, or
yeah, but you're looking at maybe I shouldn't disclose the actual number, but like we have over $1,000 in like our PayPal account. So a crew, one-time crew to take video, and then an editor, because Nick can't do that shit anymore because he has a full-time job and a family and so on. You'd tap out all that entire amount of money in one go. So you could do that, but you couldn't sustain it. Maybe if people signed up for our Patreon and we had like 200 patrons, we could, I mean, the current situation with the blog is the more money you give us, the more shit we'll do.
Right.
The more we can like use it to support all this stuff. Right now, all we can do is like the tech stuff and the essays and the core of our work. And if it grows, then awesome. And we'll do more shit. But for now, it's really, really, really time consuming.
What about like doing reviews or whatever, like video reviews, like you basically sitting in front of a camera, like maybe some kind of green screen thing going on behind you or something like that, just to like get your content on YouTube as well? Like it just seems like this is an untapped thing that could make y'all like bigger.
Yeah.
Question is like kind of banger TV or whatever.
Yeah, for sure. So, but the question is like who and when. So I used to have like a short running 4 episodes. I don't know if anyone ever saw it. It's on YouTube. Soundtrack to the Night. I used to do night shifts, and I'd be alone in the office, right? So I would just make a playlist and then talk about the playlist and why I chose the tracks that I did on YouTube. It's just a lot of work, right? And I have the podcast, the blog podcast, and then 2 other podcasts. I work a full-time job, and I run the blog. Same thing for Jimmy, has his kids, full-time job. Like, so you see what I'm saying? Everyone is maxed out. Everyone's maxed out. Yeah, that's basically
No, that
it.
makes
that's-
sense. That makes sense. It seems like you probably have to like start compensating people and stuff for like to making videos and stuff like that. I get it. You're trying to like keep it a
Yeah.
volunteer kind of thing and
Yeah,
not
exactly.
not bring up the cost of the blog and stuff.
Exactly.
That sucks though, man. Like, that'd be so cool to get like live footage going again. That seems like such a great way.
Yeah, that was so cool. I'm so proud of what Nick was able to do. I mean, we got drum cam footage for Ulcerate. That is the coolest thing on the planet to me. And you know, it's just hard. And he doesn't even live in New York City anymore. I mean, but even then, I mean, he was lugging around 2 cameras, GoPros, all that equipment by himself through like the subway and like going to shows. Like
he's a champion.
He did that just because he wanted to. He wanted to see if he could make it happen, and we did. It was so much work to get that done, and I don't blame him for backing out of that at all.
When I shared like one of your posts about us being here, I made the joke that it would take me like 5 minutes to go political. So it's not 5 minutes.
It took you 20. It took you 20 minutes.
A bit more. I mean, just a tangent here, just to go a bit deeper into this, like the inability of people to have free time, or the less and less free time that we have because of stuff like the pandemic and stagnating wages and all that stuff, is what leads to less cool shit being made. It's very important to say this. Like, there are less bands on the planet and less good music because rent keeps going up. And people who could, Kraftwerk in the 70s, they could experiment with synthesizers and make music which was patently unmarketable when they released their debut album, because they created a genre because they were in social housing. They lived at social housing, right? All of these like big bands, like, you hear their stories, like Bowie and Stones and all these Beatles, right? They were living off nothing. They had nothing to their name, but they could make do more than us because of how our conditions keep getting worse. So
you're preaching to the choir over here, man. Like, I'm totally.
No, for sure. I'm not.
100%.
Yeah. No, I know we're on the same page.
Yeah.
I just want to get it out there because that's the actual answer, right? Like, to afford the basic necessities of life, we have to do so much more now that there's no time to make the cool shit that we want to make.
Right. Yeah, I think a lot of people kind of figured that out over the pandemic with like the lockdowns and stuff. Yeah. That's what drove me to start doing like the podcasts and all that stuff and focusing more on like music and.
For sure.
Nate TCRN in chat saying that he just signed up for the Patreon and that y'all should reach out to Hate56.
That's
he's got his own thing.
Yeah, I feel like he's got his own thing, but
he's on a whole other level.
I bet there are people that would love to like post stuff on your blog, like with a video and stuff.
He doesn't need us.
So we got a random question here we ask everybody. What do you put on your hot dogs?
Oh, that's funny. Before we answer, we used to ask every single person how they liked their eggs. I remember looking at Paul Masvidal from Cynic in the eyes and being like, how do you like your eggs? And they would always give like legitimately thoughtful answers. Author and Punisher, Tristan Schoen, he gave me like this detailed recipe of how he makes eggs. And I miss it. We need to bring that back, Eden, asking people how they like their eggs. But, I'm a simple guy as far as hot dogs goes. I'm one of those heathens that puts ketchup on a hot dog. I'm sorry.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
I know.
I'm a minimalist, so I do onion and sauerkraut and mayo.
Okay, get behind it.
The classic.
That's nice.
I also like coleslaw and chili. Simple stuff.
That kind of redeems the ketchup thing for me.
Yeah.
No, I'm not a ketchup guy at all. I think it's too sweet.
I think though the best hot dog I've ever had was actually in Atlanta. I used to fly there for like my previous work, had an office there, and it was just like you reminded me because of the slaw, right? They put slaw on everything over there, and it was almost like the coleslaw was better than the actual hot dog. I was like, can I just have the coleslaw in a big bowl? I will just eat this forever. It was amazing. The hot dog itself was really good, but the slaw was just fucking mind-blowing.
So how do you cook your eggs? If you're asking other people, man, we got to get the answer from the.
So I do. I have this recipe, quote unquote, that my mom handed down to me. That's how she would make my eggs when I was a kid. And when you whisk the eggs, you put in a little milk inside the actual batter, and then you put it on the pan. I scramble it, and usually if I'm eating alone, I put the hottest sauce you can find.
Okay. I'm a hot sauce guy too.
Ghost pepper, Carolina Reaper, like the hottest you can get.
What about you, Jay?
In the past, my answer was always very childish. I guess similar to what Eden said, like, milk and eggs, scramble them up. But lately, I've been on a sunny side up fried egg kind of kick. It took me a long time to get over runny yolks, but as a grown man, I've gotten over it.
Dude, runny yolks with like some toast or something. That's like
good.
Legit
good
right there. That's good stuff.
Yeah,
100%.
So what I guess I'm starting to run out of stuff to talk about. Is there anything specific that y'all wanted to bring up before we go over your album of the year? Eden, you have a band, right? Instar.
Yeah.
I was
just gonna say that, like, asking us like if we have anything we want to bring up is like, taking your finger out the dam, because there's so much stuff we can talk about the blog and music and stuff like that. But Instar, yeah, I'm in a band. I don't know. It's always been weird to me to say that I'm in a band, because all I do is narrate poetry and short stories that I write over music. And then I'm very lucky to have Greg, Doug, and Nick, a different Nick Maney, who actually composed the music and recorded and so on. And we have Travis Orban on session drums, really cool guy. And we do like this progress. We call it adventure prog.
Adventure prog, okay.
So it's actually like a little subgenre. There's other bands in that subgenre. It's like really bright-eyed, optimistic, larger-than-life progressive metal. Trent, who's in the chat, actually made our cover art for some of our albums.
Oh, nice.
He's a whiz with like photo editing software. He did some really cool stuff. I love it. We don't release music often, especially with the pandemic. Greg is an ICU nurse in Austin, so you can imagine what his last 2 years have looked like.
Probably pretty dismal there. It probably makes the music a little more darker, I would imagine. Not so not so happy.
So it's actually we're trying not to let that seep in, right?
Right.
Keep although it is, the next album is darker, but it was all stuff that I wrote long before COVID. I love it. I adore it. I always feel like an outsider, right? Because I'm not a musician. I don't play any instrument. I don't know anything about like actually making music. I know a bit more now than I did a few years ago. So I'm very privileged to like have those guys want to work with me, and I love the music that we make. Like I legitimately sit down and listen to it in my free time. So that's always the best sign. Has
there ever been a push for you to like contribute musically? Like, have you picked up a guitar to try to learn something or tinker on a keyboard?
So, this is a funny story. I was like, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna learn something, but what should I learn? So then I saw Sarah Longfield, the guitar player, super talented person, and she's also doing electronic music. And she posted a track that she made with a synthesizer called the Arturia Microfreak. It's like this little synthesizer, but it has a lot of punch and like an envelope and an amplifier and all that stuff in one. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do it. I asked my wife to buy it for me for my birthday, and I was like, I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna plug it to Ableton or whatever, and I'm gonna start tinkering. But wouldn't you know, music is a lot of work. And I was like, okay, I can't do this. Like I would have to. I understand why you pick it up when you're a kid, right? You have all the time in the world. I found myself like staying up until 3-4 a.m. like reading about how Ableton works. I was like, this is a bit too much for me. But then what happened is that my dad, who is a painter and a photographer and an artist all his life, but never did any music, really wanted to get into music. So it's like, why don't I buy this off of you? And he's retired and also has like a slight obsessive personality. And he's doing it. Like he's making music. He used the microphone. Yeah, he just bought a second keyboard, like a big MIDI controller, and he bought like a sick microphone, like a condenser, and he has a YouTube channel with like, and he posts like 3 tracks every week. So in the end, it all worked out. But
what does he call his music, or like is it his name or?
Yeah, if you go to YouTube, well, actually, you'll find a bunch of talks that I gave. Probably if you just search for Kupermintz.
Okay.
But let's see what happens when I put in Kupermintz into YouTube. Yeah. Oh no, you get. No, it's all like talks that I gave or videos of him and music. Yeah, just go into YouTube, type in Kupermintz, and look for the first name that isn't mine, and you'll find him.
Okay.
And also, you can listen to my talks. There's a bunch of content that I make that's on YouTube.
Talks about what exactly?
So one of the other things that I do is that I consult for the Tel Aviv Science Fiction Film Festival.
Okay.
Called Utopia.
That's sick.
Yeah, super interesting. And I've been privileged to fly around the world, mostly to the Republica Festival in Berlin. It's like a digital cultural festival. And I gave a bunch of talks there. I actually gave a talk in 2018 before COVID, about metal and climate change, like metal's vision for the future and climate change and stuff like that. So there's a bunch of stuff on there you could watch. Yeah.
That's crazy. So you do like a lot of like presenting and stuff, then a lot of like interacting with the public and such. Like, do you do so much stuff? Oh my God, dude. I don't know how you're...
Have we covered it all?
Oh, you do podcasts too, right? You have 2 other podcasts.
Yeah. So 3 podcasts. That's the Eden Kupermintz expanded podcast universe. The Science Fiction Festival talks that I give, the blog, obviously, full-time job. And I also have a blog with poetry and articles that I write, but I haven't updated it in a while. That's it. God. So Jimmy, going back to your question, like, where would I learn an instrument inside of that? That whole mess.
Eden, he's so busy and brilliant, and he stays so active, and I feel fortunate enough to know him that way. I can warm my hands off of his fire a little bit.
Right. It gets me inspired to go do some shit.
I know.
Like, God damn.
I don't have the headspace for that.
So wait, are we embarrassing each other now? Is that what we're doing? Because I can dish as well as I can take, Jim. I'm saying it aggressively, but maybe just a closing note if we are about to close, about the blog. We've said this many times on social media, and I think that people don't take it seriously. But at least for my case, I am 100% very earnest when I say this, that like Heavy Blog saved my life, like literally saved my life. I was so deep in depression when I happened to like stumble across the blog, and running it and writing for it and getting to meet all these people like gave me so much passion and community, like Nick and Jimmy and Jonathan and Scott and all these other people who write for the blog. Sorry if I didn't name you, you're all included. Like, they're some of my best friends on the planet. I got married at Nick's house in Brooklyn, and like people from the blog attended, right? It literally saved my life. Like, it brought me back from the brink of really dark places where I was at. And this is the embarrassing part, none of it wouldn't have existed without Jimmy. Right? None of it. So it's just crazy to think, that we got to do this thing, and the Jimmy kept it alive so long. Like, if you do the math, and that's something that people don't do, like only now when it's been my last year when it was my 7th year of the blog, I like exceeded Jimmy as far as veterancy, and he did it alone, right?
Yeah,
it's crazy. It's crazy. So, as we say, Heavy Blog is life.
And the biggest mistake.
And the biggest mistake we've ever made. Yeah, of course. Yeah. It's like
Heavy Blog was a mistake is a good meme.
I did have one other question to ask before we close it up. What's the future for Heavy Blog? Like, do y'all have any other kinds of articles come in the works, or are y'all just trying to keep going?
We also got to do album of the year, right?
Yeah, it's gonna be right after this.
Oh, cool. Like, future of Heavy Blog, right now we're in maintenance mode, and we've said it, right? Like, right now we're keeping the lights on. Lots of life changes. I got a new job recently. Lots of like stuff happening with other people that I don't want to disclose on there, right? The personal stuff. So we're figuring out how to keep this thing running for the next 10 years, right? Like, how do we make this sustainable? And then, as we said, with the Patreon, the more support we get, the more money that comes in that enables us to do the stuff that we like. The sky's the limit. We'd like to do a showcase festival like Mathcore Index did.
That would be sick.
That's always been a
we got to participate with Postfest a couple of years ago. That was fun. I walked in and our merch, which you can buy at 1000arms.com. Here's one of them.
Good plug. Well
Here's
done.
one of them. I walked in and then our merch was there at the festival, and it was fantastic. I got to meet the guys from Holy Fawn there. Fantastic.
Yeah, so that's one thing.
So hopefully we get to do that again when things aren't so desperately terrible outside.
Uncertain, yeah.
Yeah, so showcase would be cool. There's some stuff on the way, but if we're talking like theoretically, and I posted about this on the blog recently, like hinted at it. At some point, I'd like to turn Heavy Blog into a cooperative.
What do you mean by that?
Like flatten the hierarchy. So there's no editor-in-chief, there's no editors, there's no one person running the blog, and it's run together cooperatively by the entire staff. I believe that ideologically, that's the best way to run anything, but also I'd like to experiment with that. Because right now,
how would that change what's happening right now?
It would change very close to that.
I mean, you could say that, but there's still very clear hierarchy. Like, the people who make the shots are basically 5 people, and then there's 3 or 4 others that are involved in decision making, and the rest of the staff are updated on the decision. Right? Like, how are we going to do end of year? How many posts a year are we running? Reviews coming in, so on. Dan, I agree with you. It's a community, but the community doesn't decide what happens with the blog. And as a leftist and a socialist and all that stuff, I believe that that's how it should work. Like, not just writers. The people who read Heavy Blog are the people who make Heavy Blog. And readers should have a say, like an actual say in what the content does and looks and which bands we cover and stuff like that. It's, again, far future. I have no idea what it looks like and how it works and all that stuff, but it's a dream of mine that one day we'll be able to do that.
That sounds awesome. So let's go over album of the year. Y'all did make some lists on your the website, but Eden, you didn't number them like a coward. What's your number
Not
one? Not
like
album,
a coward,
man?
like a genius, like a brain.
Okay.
Galaxy brain.
Yeah, I don't like ranking music anymore, but because you're pushing me up against the wall and forcing me again, I'm joking. My album of the year is Terminus, The Silent Bell Toll.
Okay, I never heard of that one.
Fantastic album. So it's kind of like stoner, but with this poppy edge to it. So think Torch, Floor, Pallbearer. So like doom and stoner, but with this progressive and like poppy and sweet vibe to it. Super addictive, great riffs, great solos, great vocals, like amazing album. And those guys are super nice as well. We're in touch because I reviewed the album and they did like a guest list on the blog. Really cool people. So check them out. Super fantastic album.
Okay. And Jimmy?
I did number mine. I was very resistant at first with like doing an unranked list. That's what we ended up doing but I came around because music's not a competition. It's not a contest. Who's to say like what the best album of the year is? If you ask me tomorrow, my answer is going to be different. Like, right. I know that the one you saw, my list was ranked in the individual staff list, and that was Frontier's Oxidized. I think that they took what made them so cool and like just cranked it up. I'm a sucker for riffs that go pew 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 pew. So anything that Pedram does, I am fully on board for. So I love that. But
he's so good at making like the patterns and stuff like that. It's so
so good. So I think that Frontier are like on the cutting edge of that kind of thing. But if I'm being honest with myself, my brain says Frontier, but my heart says that my favorite album of the year was that new Halsey record. If I Can't Have Love, I Want Power. Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross of 9 Inch Nails produced it. And it's better than their How to Destroy Angels project that Trent did with his wife. It's got a similar kind of vibe to it, and that's it's a little spacier, more poppy than 9 Inch Nails. But I quite love it. I probably listen to that more than anything. So between my brain and my heart, it's probably a tie between Frontier and Halsey.
Alrighty. That's about all I had to talk about, unless you guys had something else you wanted to bring up.
How do you like your eggs?
My eggs? I haven't had eggs in a while actually, but I'm totally on board with a fried egg, runny yolk. That sounds great. Get that with some bacon.
Can't beat the classics.
I can do that, yeah. But yeah, thanks for hanging out, guys. Where can people find you?
Everywhere at once. No, I'm joking. Heavyblog is heavy.com, obviously. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Jimmy's been doing great work with Instagram.
I need to get back to doing that. I didn't post any of the album of the year content on there.
Yeah. It's fine. Who cares? It's not like it's the most important and most popular content.
It's all facade. The metaverse is it's all
the
facade.
metaverse. Yeah, find me on the metaverse. I am on Twitter. That's the best place to follow me at Tallest Eden. Don't follow me though. I talk about bullshit constantly, like 24/7.
Linktree.com/heavyblog.
Oh, we have a link tree. Wow, so millennial of us.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice. Okay.
Yeah.
And your merch thing, I didn't write it down. What was the merch link again?
1000arms.com.
1000arms.com.
Yep. Spelled out.
And as for me, drop my channel follow so you always know when I go live. You can also sub to get access to the interviews before they hit YouTube and streaming services, as well as get some exclusive emotes. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. YouTube folks, if you enjoyed the video, please drop a like, tickle the notification bell. Don't forget to subscribe. It's a great way to support me for free. Check out my music, The Sound That Ends Creation, at thesoundthatenscreation.bandcamp.com. My new album, Boomers, Zoomers, Desperate Coomers, is out now, and hopefully
It's
vinyl's
incredible, by the way.
Oh, thank you so much, man. But hopefully the vinyl's going to be shipping soon. Just waiting for a confirmation from the plant. My next guest is Russian-based mathcore act Borge. Join us this Wednesday the 26th at 12 p.m. Central for the live cast. Thanks for being here, guys. Hope you had a good time.
Thank you for having us, Chris.
Thank you so much, Chris. I love you.
Oh, I love you too. And thank you guys for watching and listening.